Appalachian witches, granny witches, mountain witches, faith healers, whatever you choose to call them, they still pretty much mean the same thing. You know, these old mountains and foothills here in Appalachia all had their tales of first-hand accounts of witches. Some was called, like I said, faith healers, medicine witches. Some of them was even called good witches, you know, the ones that use their witchery to help others. Others, well, they wasn't so good. Those traditions was brought over here to these old mountains as early as the 16th century. From Scotland, Ireland, Germany, you know, among other places, wherever mother countries of the settlers would have been from. And they intertwined with one another with the Native American traditions. And Appalachian witchery became uniquely Appalachian. I've heard tales of witches tying an old dish rag to an axe handle or a fence post, and they would milk it just like milking a cow. And this was some kind of magical conjuring that was used to steal milk from the neighbor's milk cow. And you know, sometimes in return they'd claim that when the owner went to milk that cow and there was very little milk, and she had a sense that someone was stealing her milk, she might take and dig a little hole in the ground and take what little milk she got from that cow and dump it in that hole and get her a big horse whip and go to whipping that milk. And whoever showed up a welts on them, that was, they'd found the thief that way. And I hear the tale of them pouring kerosene in the hole with the milk and setting it on fire. They'd have their skin and all burn up, blistered. And then the faith healers, they was like, you know, a medicine woman, like a medicine man. They'd use their herbs, they'd mix this, mix that, first one thing to next. Then they would take this to heal this or that to heal this. First one thing to next, you know, they had their own recipes and own conjures. I remember this one tale. I remember hearing it growing up several times. This old woman, she was believed to have been a witch. She liked to bring torment in amongst her neighbors. And they said every time it would rain, she would take herself across the fence that separated their property, and she'd go up there and sit around with them and pester and aggravate and go on. Said every time she was aiming on leaving, she insisted that these two sisters would go with her and let the fence down so she could cross it, because she wouldn't cross it leaving, but she would cross it a coming. Now, I'm not sure the deal behind the fence crossing, but it said every time she would leave, that baby would throw a fit and squall just like something was hitting it. And they got to slipping around and watching that old woman, and she was sitting in a lap sitting with a pillar in her lap. Said she had a big old crochet needle, and she'd stab at that old pillar, and every time she'd stab that old pillar, that baby would squall out in pain. Well, they figured out that she was using witchery on that youngin', and they come up with a plan. They was gonna confront that old hag. And the very next time it come a good rain, sure enough, here she come up the hill. And like every time before, she insisted that them sisters go back down the hill with her and let that fence down. But they'd already had them a plan, and they eased off down through there with her. One kind of got in the front there and let the fence down, and the other one had a big stake hidden under her apron. And while the other in the front had that old witch's attention, the witch raised her foot up and went to step over that fence that's laying on the ground. The other took that stake and jobbed it through her dress and pinned her down where she couldn't move to the ground. Well, they wrestled her down and got her flat of her back on the ground, I reckon, and they roughed her up, whooped on her a little, and I guess when they decided they had her attention real good, they commenced to telling her that they knowed what she'd been up to, and it was going to stop. Or, they told her what she'd get next round. And she promised them if they'd let her up, she'd never bother them again. They let her up and they warned her. I reckon she went on and never spoke to them again, never bothered them again. The legends, these old mountain or granny witches today may seem out there far-fetched, like something out of an old black and white movie. But in my mind, them old people had to have known something. When they would tell an old witch tale, I mean, how else is a witch doctor going to charm off a wart? Most of the secrets and the conjuring rituals, they died off with certain ones, and when they did share it, it was mostly just with close family. And they faded into these old dark, beautiful, mysterious mountains of Appalachia. And when there's nobody to carry it on, when they died, it's over with. But anyway, hope you enjoyed this little deal on witches. We didn't cover any of it hardly, just a little bit of a tale that I heard growing up, and I've heard more. But that nerve just always stuck out. My mama would sit around sometimes and tell things like it. She'd heard from her mommy, and every once in a while I remember a little something that she'd tell. I wish I'd in my kid mind didn't know no better, but I wished I'd have wrote a lot of that down or just paid more attention. But yous all have a good one, and watch out for them granny witches.